We're now going to take the basic information we have about design and we're going to use it in a way that will help us express our identity. And we're going to do that with an assignment that is in part based on creating a personal logo and using that in a business card. So a couple questions to start off with is, what exactly is a logo and why do we need to be concerned about it? Well, as these brand logos show, having a brand identity is very important to distinguish one company from another and one product from another. And to be honest, in the eyes of employers, we are all products, and they want to make sure they get the best one that fits their needs. So a good place to start with giving them that impression is to make sure that we have a brand and a logo that indicates we can give them exactly what they want. So let's start with a basic definition of what a logo is. A logo is a sign, symbol, trademark, or badge that conveys the identity or ownership of a product, company, campaign, or concept in as memorable way as possible. That last phrase is very important. As we go through this lesson, we're going to see a lot of logos that, while in many cases very simple, are also very memorable. A logo can be as simple as a distinct graphic that stands for the whole company or organization. The classic McDonald's golden arches that just happen to form an M, as in McDonald's, uses a typeface and color to communicate the brand, and by picking the color, which is sort of golden, says something about the brand. A logo is also something that needs to work immediately. People need to be able to recognize it. People need to be able to connect with it positively. When a designer is tasked with creating a good logo or updating a logo, there are several qualities that are worth considering. One is it should be simple and at the same time memorable. Another is that while it should make an impact, it should be boiled down to its bare essence. It should somehow also represent the brand. With Disney here, you see a typeface that's very playful, and that says something about the Disney experience. It also needs to be something that's usable in a variety of sizes and formats, not only for printed materials, but for the web as well. The idea of the logo as an identifying mark is nothing new. As you'll see if you watch this video, A Brief History of Logo Design, this idea is really a very old one. I highly recommend you pause our lesson here and go spend 6 minutes watching this video over at The Atlantic. After you've watched that, there's another video that is well worth your time. In this case, it also deals with history, but it deals with the history of one specific logo. That one is the logo for Rolling Stone magazine. Rolling Stone started in the late 1960s as a very hippie, countercultural publication. As times changed and the publication moved more mainstream, it found itself needing to change the logo, but also wanting to keep it connected to its roots. Again, this is not a very long video, and one that I think you'll find very useful as you start thinking about your own logo design. Rolling Stone is far from the only company that has had to do logo redesigns over the years. And this illustration shows us one particular company that you should be familiar with, Shell, which has been producing oil for well over a century now. And you'll see how times changed from 1900 through the first decade of the century, how things got more symbolic in the 1930s, color was added in the 40s, variations, and we got to the 1999 version, which, like the early ones, did away with the letters, which meant by this point that shell alone had become so symbolic of the brand, nothing else needed to be said. So if you look at these and you look at the decades in which they were developed, you'll get some sense about prevailing artistic and design sensibilities of those times. The prevailing idea in logo design today is to keep things very simple and very flat. This is in stark contrast to not that long ago when designers tried to make things look three-dimensional for the web and for smartphones. But over time it became clear that actually, as we moved towards using ever smaller screens for more of our media consumption, simple and clean worked better than having false shadows and other three-dimensional elements thrown into the mix. In the next several slides, you'll see a lot of current logos that you recognize and that follow this aesthetic. As always, when it comes to designing logo, it's best to take a thoughtful and slow approach and not just be satisfied with the first thing that you can pull together in InDesign. In fact, the process of designing logo requires several steps before we get to that final step. First is doing research. If we're trying to create a new logo for a company, we want to find out what makes that company tick and how that company positions itself, what its unique selling point is to consumers. If we're dealing with a company that's been long established, we want to find out not only that, but how the company sees itself evolving today. So this requires not only researching, but a lot of brainstorming, coming up with a bunch of different ideas. Once we've done that, we're going to find some icons we can work with, finally design the logo. So the brainstorming part includes having as many different ideas as possible of presenting the message you want to get across here. And just as we did thumbnails for our ad assignment, here we're going to try to come up with a bunch of different ideas as well. So we should list ideas, we should sketch ideas, we should not throw anything out initially, and conversely, not just jump on the first thing that comes to mind. From there, we're going to try some of the ideas, and we're going to try many different typefaces. Remember that different typefaces have different messages inherent to them. And think about things like bold and italic, whether it should be all uppercase, all lowercase, whether we should use spacing between the letters, or how we're going to put all the pieces together here. Once we've done that, if we're not going to use a logo that's simply going to be text, we're going to look for icons that will be used. And we want to use high quality icons, which means we're going to look for icons that are vector graphics so they can be resized as we use our logo in various applications. And finally, we're going to combine our best graphical aspects of the logo with our best icons and come up with a logo that says something about the brand, something that can be grasped quickly by the receiver and makes a positive impression upon that person. To wrap up today's lesson, I want to present you with a little background on some logos that you see all the time. Take the time to check these out, and again, think about these as you're thinking about your own personal brand. What can you learn from these lessons when you go to create your own brand style? And we're talking about everything from the text elements to icons to colors and every other aspect of it here. If you didn't get a chance to watch the videos earlier in this presentation, take the time after the presentation to go and watch. They won't take you more than about 10 additional minutes. And again, they'll be very useful in helping you understand this whole process.